This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Steelers, Bengals, Monday Night Football. Doesn't get much better than this. And I tell you what, specifically Steelers, Bengals in Cincinnati is must-see TV. Now, let me address Sean McDonough first, because I love Sean McDonough. I think he does a phenomenal job on Monday Night Football. He's one of the few play-by-play guys that tells it like it is, along with Mike Tirico. A lot of guys kind of try to stay out of the way, don't want to step on any toes, especially a lot of the analysts, because they're either ex-players, ex-coaches. They're in that fraternity. They don't like to criticize any of the players or the coaches because they have to be around those guys. And they've been in those guys' shoes one time or another, and so they try to tread lightly. With a play-by-play guy, you don't have to necessarily do that, and McDonough does it. He tells it like it is, however he feels, he says it. That being said, don't tell me how to feel, okay? Don't talk about how the viciousness of the game is chasing away fans. Don't tell me how I feel about my football, okay? So let me address that right now. We don't want to see people get hurt, but we love the viciousness of football. It's part of the allure and the attraction to it. We can't all do it because we don't all have the physical makeup, physically nor mentally, to do it. Those guys are warriors for a reason. They put their bodies on the line each and every single time they step between those white lines. Okay? But that's why people love boxing. That's why people love UFC. They love the viciousness. Okay? We love the viciousness. So don't tell us what we are supposed to be so dismayed about. Don't tell us what's driving us away. This is attracting us to football. Okay? So don't tell me what I'm supposed to like, or don't try to tell me that I'm supposed to be dismayed or appalled. Okay? Don't come with the old soft tone of voice, incredulous, looking down your nose at these players for what they do type of attitude, and then try to project that onto the fans and tell us we're supposed to be incredulous at what we're watching. Don't speak for me. You can speak for yourself. You may not like it. And again, I don't want to see anybody taken off the field in a stretcher. None of those guys are out there to hurt each other. Nothing they do is malicious. They're just out there trying to make plays. Juju Smith-Schuster, since he's grown up, he's always been patted on the back for lighting a guy up, for laying a dude down. That's what you do. From Pop Warner to middle school to high school to college, that's what you're looking for, a ooh and a ah shot. So when you get a chance to get one, you take it. Now, they're trying to legislate that out of the game, and I'm fine with it because guys get hurt when they don't see the shots coming. I get it. And the most egregious thing that he did was he stood over him after he did it. And that's just young boy exuberance. That's young boy youth not knowing better. He's damn near 19, 20 years old. He don't know no better. Mike Tomlin will get him straight. But and 3 plays later, he came back and he hit William Jackson or Dre Kirkpatrick, or matter of fact, it was Darquez Denard. He hit him again. It wasn't the same viciousness, but he didn't ease up. He went and hit him too. It's football. It's physical. Like Ben Roethlisberger said, AFC North football. Lisa Salters was looking for some kind of pussification of football, commentary from Ben Roethlisberger. AFC North football. Next question. What you waiting on? You want me to say, oh my God, I can't believe the guys are out there. What you want me to say? It's football. So let me address that right off the top. And let me say this afterwards. Damn, I love Steelers Bengals in Cincinnati. I'm gonna tell you this much. I'm gonna take it a step further. I like that rivalry more than I like Ravens Steelers. They love pushing Ravens Steelers down our throat because it's nice and clean. F that. Give me Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, any day of the week in Cincinnati. I'll take that 2 times on Monday, 3 times on Sunday, and again on Thursday. Let me get that right there, okay? Sign me up for some of that. As a matter of fact, I'll take it another step further and tell you, best rivalry in football right now, right there. We just saw it. In Cincinnati, okay? The game in Pittsburgh when they play, it's still physical, but it's never the same type of drama as it is in Cincinnati. That being said, welcome to the program. Your man Louie T here with you for the next hour, breaking down this great football game. Very entertaining, as it always is when it's Pittsburgh and Cincinnati in the jungle. And so we'll break this thing down in its entirety. Ton of penalties, some warranted, others not. I know a lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans, I hear this from them every time they play Pittsburgh. The referees have it out for us. You may have a little bit of a gripe tonight, but again, some of those were self-inflicted wounds, okay? But some of those calls, I'd say you got to keep the laundry in your pocket on that one, refs. But in any event, you were up big in this game. No excuses. You were up 17-love. You got to find a way to win this game on a night where the Steelers did not have their fastball and the weather was nasty. You knew 17 should have been enough to win tonight. 20 for sure, okay? You needed to find a way to keep those dudes from stealing this game, and you couldn't. And that's on you, not the officials. But the officials did help. But that's on you, okay? So we'll talk about that. But in any event, thank you for joining me on this program. I, of course, am your man, Louie T. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game over here. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. I've got a number of social media platforms that will allow you to stay abreast of what's going on here on this channel. They're right there in that corner, okay? With the exception of Instagram, all of them are right there in that corner. But all the links, including Instagram, to those social media platforms down in the description below, along with how you can donate to the Louie T Network. Those 2 links that you see in front of you, one to Patreon, the other to PayPal, are the ways that you can donate to this channel. Those 2 links that you see before you also down in the description of this and every single video I do. Thank you, okay, for your contributions to this channel. They are greatly appreciated in helping me grow in ways you cannot imagine. So, with that being said, let's jump into this game. This was a beautiful game. These are the types of games that make you say, I love this game. And while Sean McDonough thinks these types of games are driving us away, these games are attracting me like bees to honey, okay? These are the types of games that have that pull. For every single funky-ass primetime game we've had, you get one of these gems right here that make you say, It's the things that make you go, This is one of these games. So let's start with the Steelers, who get the win, improve to 10-2, stay right hip to hip with the New England Patriots. Patriots almost got one tonight. And that's the difference between the Patriots and the Steelers, is that the Steelers go through their division and they're battle tested, okay? And I think the Steelers will be a better team because of it. Because in any given week, hell, next week's going to be another war for the Steelers against the Ravens. At least that one's going to be at home instead of on the road. But in any given week, the Steelers can get it in their own division, whether it be Cincinnati or Baltimore. Hell, even Cleveland gives them a run. New England doesn't have a goddamn thing to worry about in the AFC East. Year after year, the one team that gives them a fight is usually Miami, at Miami, and that game is going to be next week on Monday night, and I'm not looking forward to it because the Dolphins stink, and the Dolphins are going to get run out of their own building again. But in any event, the Jets, they give the Patriots a little bit of a run, but they know they can beat the Jets. They know they can beat the Dolphins. They beat the Bills. They don't get the type of competition that the Steelers get in their division, and so this was a gutty performance by the Steelers. It was tough. It was a hard-fought game. It was physical, as you saw watching the game, if you watched it from start to finish, as I did. And these are the types of games that help define you as a football team. They sharpen your mettle, okay? Because your mettle gets tested throughout the season. If you play in a tough division, your mettle gets tested throughout the season. You're going to play some close games. The Steelers are notorious for playing down to their level of competition. This was not that, Okay, Cincinnati got off to a rough start this season with the offensive struggles with Ken Zampese as their offensive coordinator. They get rid of him, and they've done some really good things since Bill Lazor has taken over as their OC. And if not for the slow start, because they had no business losing to Houston in week 2, hell, they probably shouldn't have lost to Baltimore in week 1 at home. But that's nor here nor there. They had the Green Bay Packers, let them off the hook, much like they did tonight with Pittsburgh. Big lead, except that was a big lead in the fourth quarter, and they blew it against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. But nonetheless, the Cincinnati Bengals are a good enough team to make the postseason this year. They're not going to because of their record, obviously, but had some games gone the way that they should have, i.e. Green Bay, this game, they beat Houston in week 2. You're talking about a team that could easily be 8-4 right now instead of 5-7, 7-5 instead of 5-7. Okay, so in any event, they're a game opponent, and the Steelers had to work hard for this one. And let's start on the defensive side of the football, because the injuries are starting to mount, and that's the only thing that can stop the Steelers from beating the New England Patriots a couple of weeks from now, and more importantly, in the AFC Championship game when those two teams meet, if they do in fact get there, which I've already declared a foregone conclusion, which probably is a mistake because there are some teams in the AFC, i.e. Baltimore, i.e. Jacksonville, i.e. Los Angeles Chargers, if they get in, that could do some damage and bust up our AFC Championship game. But that being said, injuries can also derail that AFC Championship game from coming to fruition, and the Steelers continuing to see the injuries mounting up. Remember, they're already down their star corner, Joe Hayden. He should be back before the postseason, which is a great sign for them. They need that first-round bye so they don't have to play in that first game. And so they should be, them and New England should be able to hold everybody else off. I think the next closest team in the AFC, I don't think there are any 9-win teams in the AFC. I think it's 8 is the next closest team, and that's Jacksonville and Tennessee. So I don't think... Trying to think. AFC West is garbage. AFC North is Pittsburgh. AFC East is New England. AFC South, yeah. So the next two closest teams are Jacksonville and Tennessee. I don't think either one of those teams are a threat to either Pittsburgh or New England to take away one of those top 2 seeds in the AFC conference. So you're basically looking at a situation where they should get Hayden back, but this one is scary with Ryan Shazier, and the fact that we haven't heard that he's okay. We didn't get a thumbs up from Shazier. We know the arms and the upper body limbs are working. The legs are what are the concern right now. He immediately went for his back. He immediately put his arms up to say, hey, I think I got feeling in my arms, but we never saw the legs flailing and moving around. So that's a little disconcerting. I just want to hear that he's okay. We just want to hear that he has all movements and all extremities. And then we can start talking about him potentially getting back on the football field. But right now, football takes a backseat and is secondary to his health. And so that's what we care about the most with Shazier. But it's much like Cincinnati, totally different defense when you take their middle linebacker out of the mix. And so no Shazier means a big problem for Pittsburgh defensively moving forward. They were able to hang on tonight and rally back despite his absence, and then they lost Tyler Medikevich afterwards. So they were down to their third-string middle linebacker, inside linebacker in that 3-4 defensive front. But nonetheless, they were able to find a way to pull it out. But that secondary is getting tested in terms of depth. I saw some numbers out there that I'm unfamiliar with. Who the hell is number 34? I didn't even get his name tonight, but I saw him on the field. Way too much for my liking. So the fact that the Steelers are getting thin in the secondary, the fact that the Steelers are getting thin at the linebacker position is scary when you've got New England in a couple of weeks, and that could determine home field advantage in the AFC conference. So that is something to take a look at. But it's in terms of this particular game, I thought the defense stepped up late in the game. Early on, they allowed Cincinnati to control the line of scrimmage. The Bengals were able to run it. And even into the third and fourth quarter, Giovanni Bernard, able to have some really good runs. And they were doing a good job of controlling the line of scrimmage. And he was getting 5 and 6 and 8 and 9. And so that was part of the problem in the first half, was allowing the Bengals to control the line of scrimmage. There was no pressure on Andy Dalton. So he was able to scan the field, make some good, accurate throws with the football. A.J. Green was tearing the Pittsburgh Steelers a new asshole. And if not for the penalty on Giovanni Bernard, now look, I thought it was holding. When I saw it initially, I said, damn, it looked like they were holding T.J. Watt because he was going to get there. He beat Andre Smith off the snaps with a swim move, and then it was just, or it might have been the tight end, Uzama, off the snap with a swim move. Either way, he was in the backfield immediately, and then Giovanni Bernard got a piece of him, and I said, that looked like holding, but I didn't expect him to call it. And then when you look at the replay, it's an iffy call at best. I thought it was holding because I thought without his grab, he and his impediment of T.J. Watt, he would have gotten to Andy Dalton and affected that play. But that was a huge play and a huge call because that touchdown might have put the game out of reach. And because remember, that was at a time when Pittsburgh had just scored a touchdown. They had swung the momentum in the game. It was now 17-10, and the Bengals needed something to swing that momentum back in their favor, and that touchdown would have done exactly that. Instead, that was negated. I think they did later get a field goal on that possession, their final points of the game. But as you can see, 7 would have been large. That's the difference between you holding on for this one and losing this game 23-20. That would have been 24 had that touchdown stood. So huge swing there. But A.J. Green was destroying the secondary. And you can get behind this Steelers secondary without Joe Hayden. That's the problem with this secondary, is that they don't have a number 1 corner now. I like our Artie Burns. I do not love Artie Burns as a number 1. I think Artie Burns is an exceptional number 2. And that's why the Steelers felt the need to go out and get Joe Hayden, is because they said, look, Artie's growing. And he's becoming a damn good corner in this league. But he's not a number 1. We don't trust him against the other team's best consistently. We'd like Joe Hayden to be our number 1. And he did a great job before he got injured. And so you saw the Bengals taking advantage. You saw JoJo LaFell get behind them a couple of times on the corner route on like a 3rd and 17. Inexcusable. So there were opportunities for Cincinnati in this game, in the passing game. And Andy Dalton, I thought, was good for much of the game. But late, I thought the play calling got conservative. I thought that the Steelers did a good job of mixing up coverages. They were coming with those corner blitzes. Andy was able to pick those off. Nice throw to JoJo LaFell on a slant off that corner blitz. But then as the game progressed, the Steelers started to just come with 4-man pressures. Then they would switch it up, come with a 6-man pressure. And then at the end, on the most critical 3rd down of the game, 3rd and 2, I hated the fact that the Bengals didn't. I thought they had an opportunity to trick the Steelers up with a run there. They came with a 3-man rush. I'd have loved to have seen them spread them out, 4 wide receivers, Gio Bernard in the backfield, all right? And because the Steelers, I think they were coming with a 3-man rush regardless. So they spread them out and then handed off to Gio Bernard, and he would have picked up that 1st down, moved the sticks. More importantly, kept the football out of Roethlisberger's hands. And now you have a chance to get a drive of your own started and potentially get your own game-winning field goal, even though I think you have one of the worst kickers in the league in Randy Bullock, but that's nor here nor there. In any event, that's a crucial 3rd down there. Steelers get the stop. I thought the pass rush came alive in the second half defensively. You started to see guys win on the edges. And, Cincinnati's had trouble blocking it up. They've been better of late, but those problems started to rear their ugly heads at the end of this game as you saw Bud Dupree starting to hit home. You started to see guys winning individual matchups. T.J. Watt and Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward starting to win those one-on-one individual battles. Andy Dalton, you could tell, started to get happy feet, wasn't comfortable. And in that last sack, he ran into that sack because he wasn't comfortable, despite it being only a 3-man rush. So, again, thought the Steelers got the stops when they were necessary in the second half. They did a good job of mixing up coverages, mixing up looks, and not giving the Bengals easy opportunities. Now, the Bengals did help with drops. JoJo LaFell with a drop, 2 drops by it's A.J. Green, and nothing bigger than the one on the last drive, because that's a drive starter. That gives you the momentum. Okay, let's go get some points. Let's go get this drive started, put the Steelers on their heels. Instead, you drop that football. It's now 2nd and 10. You run it on 2nd and 10. You get 8. Would have loved to have seen another run there. Spread them out, shotgun handoff, boom. I think you would have gotten them off guard. But in any event, Steelers defensively did enough to come away with the victory. It wasn't pretty, but it was gritty, especially with backup to the backup linebackers in this game. To find a way to come away with the victory, you've got to feel good about that if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You go to the offensive side of the football. What more can I say? It was another one of those performances by the Killer Bees that you just are in awe of what the Steelers are capable of doing with the weaponry that they have. And it's so fun to watch. And it's another one of those situations where I'm going to urge you to enjoy this, savor this while you can before Ben decides to hang it up. And then they have ineptitude at the quarterback position. Antonio Brown is ridiculous. That combination of Big Ben to Antonio Brown is lethal. It's the most lethal combination in all of football right now. Le'Veon Bell, L.Bell, is just stupid. He's dumb. All right. Out of the backfield, over 100 yards receiving in this game. That the whole William Jackson III fiasco down the sideline, that's just garbage. I mean, William Jackson III was a guy that I thought at Houston was a non-contact guy, but even that was pathetic. I mean, he assumed, and I get it, you're a young boy, you know, your checks aren't as large, but still, man, he wasn't on the white. You got to hit him. You got to knock him out of bounds. And you saw a couple of plays tonight where guys didn't know. With William Jackson III, that's just pathetic. You got to knock him out of bounds. You can't allow him to tiptoe the sideline and score an easy touchdown there. But with the Bud Dupree one, he thought Andy Dalton had thrown the football. And again, guys aren't trying to pick up penalties and get fined and have to give up some of their game check money. So I can understand that. But L.Bell is stupid, man. That guy is just a different level of running back, the likes of which this league just doesn't have anymore these days. You don't see the guy that is able to run it, catch it, and you know how most teams have a third down back? He's the first, the second, the third, and the fourth down back. Like they drafted James Conner to give him a spell. James Conner might get 2 plays a game, maybe at best. Le'Veon Bell never comes off the field. Like, bro, you just broke off a 47-yard run, and he's still in the backfield. Like, hey, let this man get a couple touches, man. It's okay for you to come out every once in a while. The Steelers don't give it in. I already told you. They're going to wear his ass out. And I hate when they show statistics like the one they showed tonight about how many touches he has a game, because I've been talking about that all season long. Like, they're going to kill this guy. And they don't care because they're like, hey, we paying this man $12.1 million this year. We're going to get every ounce of our money's worth. So they're going to wear his ass out. But what you do when you do this to guys repeatedly, and they do this to Le'Veon Bell every year, is you saw Larry Johnson on that list, and that's the name that stuck out to me. Larry Johnson was like a shooting star in the NFL. He was great for like a 4 or 5 year period, and then the wheels fell off. I mean, literally, he went off the cliff because in Kansas City, he was such a big part of their offense. He touched it so much. He took so much punishment that by the time he was like 29, he didn't have any more left in the tank. He was done. He was done. And that's what's going to happen to Le'Veon Bell if they're not careful. Yeah, he's young now, and yeah, he's able to take the punishment now, but his career is going to be so quick. It's going to be so dynamic, but it's going to end abruptly because we saw the same thing with Michael Turner in Atlanta, the burner. Remember, he didn't even play hardly in San Diego with the Chargers the first part of his career because he was behind LT. But he got an opportunity in Atlanta. They gave him the football 1,000,000 times per season for like 3 years. And then he goddamn fell off a cliff. He went from one of the best backs in the league to, hey, I'm done in 1 year. After a 3-year stretch where he was like one of the most used backs in the league and was a high usage, high production type guy for the Falcons. I hope that didn't happen to Le'Veon Bell, but damn it, I tell you what, they're getting their money's worth, and he's so good. He is so good. God damn, he's good. Damn near 100 rushing, over 100 receiving in this game. A.B. he's another one of those guys where you're just like, man, these guys are ridiculous. He had over $1 in this game, and then Ben. Just being Ben, man. You heard him. 42 game-winning drives throughout his career, now 43. The guy is phenomenal, man. Say what you want about Ben. The guy gets it done. He did it again. He did it again, leading his team down the field. And then the final killer bee, as John Gruden alluded to, Chris Boswell, okay? Adding his name into the Pittsburgh Steelers lore for his 3rd game-winning field goal of the season. As a matter of fact, 3rd game-winning field goal in 4 weeks. Beat the Colts, They took a week off from the dramatics on Thursday night versus Tennessee and came back and beat the Packers last week and then beat the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday night this week. So Boswell has been hot for the Steelers of late, and phenomenal game by the Steelers offensively. They didn't have their mojo in the first half. They slowly but surely, they stayed with the game plan. They never veered. They never panicked. And Ben said it after the game. We never panicked. And that was huge because lesser teams panic and they get away from what works. And they, even when they had to settle for a field goal, I thought that was a crucial stop. When they had to settle for a field goal when they were down 20-10 and it cut it to 20-13, I thought, damn, you needed a touchdown there. You're not going to get enough possessions to come back and win this game. And they got one more possession. They got the touchdown and tied up. They weren't supposed to get it back. Cincinnati was not supposed to allow them to get it back again, but they go 3 and out with that 3rd and 2 sack, and they gave it right back to the Steelers, and they were able to go down and get the game-winning field goal. And so I know teams that panic in that situation. I know teams that after they lose the challenge and only have 2 timeouts, squander their timeouts and waste opportunities. And so they didn't panic on the road, and this is what championship caliber teams do. They find a way to get it done. It's not always pretty, much like Minnesota. You know, I kill the Vikings for not being the prettiest team in the league, but it's all about results. And they get results every week, hence the 10-2 mark, one of the best teams in football this season. They get results. Same thing can be said about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not in New England, for that matter. It's not always pretty, but they get results. And it's a results-based league. And when you find ways to win instead of finding ways to lose, that's the fine line you walk in this league between Cincinnati being 5-7 and not being 8-4 right now, because they haven't found ways to win games against good teams. Instead, they found ways to lose. And that's the difference between being a playoff team and being at home when the playoffs begin. And so Steelers, once again, much like New England, much like Minnesota, much like a lot of the good teams in this league that we've seen, find ways to win close games. They do it again, 23-20 over the Cincinnati Bengals in a really entertaining football game. For Cincinnati, this is the exclamation point on what's been a disappointing season. I think it's going to be the last season of Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati. We're going to see quite a few coaches hit the sticks this offseason, and I think Marvin Lewis, obviously in the last year of his deal as a lame duck coach, is probably done in Cincinnati. Stranger things have happened, but I just don't see him coming back this year. Maybe if they would have won 10 games, won a playoff game, maybe Marvin Lewis is back. But because I think Marvin was mulling retirement last year, decided to come back for one more year. I think this is it. He had another year on his deal, so why not? So he's back. I think he's done now. And this team just too much adversity to overcome this season, whether it's the offensive coordinator problems to start the season, the blown lead at Green Bay after making the switch at coordinator to Bill Lazor, then finally digging yourself up out of the hole, having Tennessee on the ropes late in the ball game after the 70-yard A.J. Green slant to the crib. You're up late, and you allow Marcus Mariota to scorch you down the field and allow DeMarco Murray to get in on a swing pass out in the flats. You've had opportunities to win close games. Green Bay, Tennessee, this game, and you just haven't been able to do it this season. Houston, throw that game in the mix as well when you were struggling offensively. It's the difference between this team being 8-4, 9-3 right now, and being 5-7. And so this was another one of those games where you say they could have, should have, would have, but they didn't. And they started out like gangbusters. I thought that field goal drive right before the half was just as critical as the field goal drive at the end of the game to lose it. You're up 17-0. You're dominating this football game. How dare you give the Steelers with 21 seconds? 21 seconds! How dare you allow them to go get 3? They started from their own 25 and you let them get 3? How dare you? You deserve to lose this game. And while it seemed like an insignificant 3 at the time, I said to myself, that was alarming. That's not good. That's not a good omen going into the locker room. And hell if it didn't carry over, because then you get the ball after halftime, you go 3 and out, they get the football, and they march it right down the damn field. They pick right up where they left off at the end of the first half. How dare you? And for all the pressure that you've been getting this season, got no pressure tonight for the most part. I was really looking forward to seeing Carl Lawson, who has been dominating, leading all rookies with 7.5 sacks. I was begging to see him on the field more tonight. I was waiting for him to make a play. Never happened. I was waiting for Geno Atkins to get some pressure. Never happened. I was waiting for someone to step up and do something other than Vontaze Burfict. Didn't happen tonight. I love William Jackson III, except for that brain fart he had on the sidelines. I think he's going to be a phenomenal corner. I'm waiting for him to get on the goddamn field. I hate the fact that he's got to wait in line because there are other guys that they perceive to be better than him. I think he's better than Pac-Man Jones. Excuse me. Better than the cornerback formerly known as Adam Pac-Man Jones. I think he's better than Adam Jones at this point. But that's nor here nor there. I think he's going to be really good. I said all that to say this. I think he's going to be really good. But in any event, you just didn't make enough plays tonight. You didn't make any plays. The Steelers made all the plays, especially in the second half. When it was winning time, they made all the plays. And that's been the story of your season this year. When plays need to be made, you haven't made them this year. Except for when you're playing Indianapolis late in a ball game. Then you decide to show up and get a win against a bad football team. But when it's Tennessee, when it's Green Bay, when it's Pittsburgh, you haven't made the plays to win games this season. You haven't done it. But when it's Buffalo, you find a way to get it done then, though. And that's the problem. You've got to find a way to beat the good teams in this league when you've got a shot to beat good teams in this league. And you let another one slip. You let another one off the hook tonight. And so I thought Gio Bernard was really good. Thought he needed more touches, as a matter of fact. I didn't think you got him the football nearly enough. In a night where it was rainy, it was wet, and he was having success, why stop? If it's not broke, why are you trying to fix it? The passing game, guys dropping passes. The run game was working. You were getting 6, 7, 8 a pop. Why stop? Got it 3rd and 2, spread them out, give him the ball. When have they stopped him for less than 2 tonight? I don't recall. So I just thought you got too cute. And it backfired on you. And then guys got to make plays, catch the damn football. For as good as A.J. Green is, he's good for a drop or 2 per game. And when it's wet outside, yeah, he's really good for a drop or 2, for sure. So it is what it is. You know, Cincinnati, this has been their issue all season long. They fought hard. They gave it a run. They had a shot, but they couldn't make the plays when plays had to be made. 3rd and 2, you need a play. Make a play. Steelers got a critical 3rd down. You leave Jesse James wide open. Make a play. And I get it, your defense is not the same without Vontaze Burfict. Neither is the Pittsburgh Steelers defense without Ryan Shazier. Not an excuse. They lost their linebacker in the first quarter. You lost yours in the 4th. Make a play. Force a field goal there. They weren't going to kick a field goal. They needed 7 there. Make a play. You didn't make a play. So, Steelers get the win. Big win for the Steelers as they improve to 10 and 2, keep pace with the Patriots for the #1 seed in the AFC. And for all intents and purposes, the division isn't done because Baltimore still plays them next week. But for all intents and purposes, if Baltimore was going to have a shot at the division, then Cincinnati needed to win this game. Get the Steelers to 9 and 3. Baltimore beats them next week. They're 9 and 4. Baltimore would then improve to 8 and 5, and then they would have had a shot at the division. Even if Baltimore is able to take them, which I seriously doubt next week, Steelers will still be 10 and 3 and they'll be 8 and 5. They're not catching them with 2 games left to play. With 3 games left to play, needing to make up 2 games worth of ground. It's not happening. So that was pretty much the last-ditch effort of anyone in the division to try to catch up. So Steelers get the win. And for Cincinnati, they had a great shot at still making the playoffs had they won this game. At 6 and 6, I like their chances better than any of the other 6 and 6 teams. That being Buffalo, Chargers, Chargers, Raiders, Chiefs. One of those teams, obviously, in the AFC West is going to get in, but I like them better than all the rest of those 6 and 6 teams. And they blew an opportunity tonight. So they're done this season. Let's get to your comments, though. Captain Spartan 04 says, we Steelers really just won this game, LOL. Yeah, you did. There were points at this game that I didn't think they were going to come back. I just said, it's not your night. It's not your night. When they were down 20-10 and they had to settle for that field goal, I said, this ain't your night. Because I thought Cincinnati had one more field goal in them, one more scoring drive in them. And they just didn't. They didn't make the plays. And I thought they had one more drive in them. And really, even if they didn't score, just one more clock-killing drive where they ate up 5 or 6 minutes of the clock, and even if it was just to flip the field position and punt and pin the Steelers at their own 7, that would have been enough to win this game. But they didn't have any drive. They had no sustained offense in the second half of this game. And so that's what allowed the Steelers to methodically work their way back into this game. It didn't happen boom, 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 and they were back in this game. It literally took them to the end of the game to catch up at 20 and win 23-20. And it's because Cincinnati didn't sustain any offense, which allowed Pittsburgh to take their time and methodically work their way back into this game. FBG Tony says, this shows Marvin Lewis should be fired, not now, but right now. Straight up pitiful performance after such a great start. Shaking my head. He's not going to get fired. That's not what they do. And as much as we like to kill Marvin Lewis, this wasn't a Marvin Lewis loss here. This was a lack of execution by his players. And a lot of times coaches get blamed for the things that players do. And even if it's a great play call and they put their players in the best situations to win and the players don't execute, the coach still gets blamed for it. And that I can't live with. I can't understand that. Because is it Marvin Lewis's fault that A.J. Green has a football go right through his hands? No, I don't blame Marvin Lewis for that. You can, I won't. Is it Marvin Lewis's fault that his players can't stop getting penalties? And not just 5-yard variety, garden variety penalties, 37-yard pass interference penalties, personal foul penalties on 3rd down, hitting Ben Roethlisberger as he's rolling out of the pocket. Come on, Geno Atkins. You know better. Was it ticky-tack? Maybe. But you didn't have to hit him. That was stupid. That was dumb. Don't give the referees a chance to impact the game. You know better. Is that Marvin Lewis's fault? Maybe. But come on, Geno is a veteran. He should know better. You know better, do better. FBG Tony says 10-6 for the week. He says your boy Tones is back in here to stay this time. My 6th double-digit week of the season. That's good, man. I think a lot of people were able to make it with this game to 10-6. I told you this was gonna be a tough week. I told everybody, I said, it ain't going to be all these 12 and 13 winners next week. I could look at the schedule of games and tell you some shit was going to go down. And it did. And for some of us who were able to navigate, we barely made it. For others, I know my man AK was like, bro, I'm 12-2. And that was going into Sunday night, I think. And if he was 12-2, he probably won both, at least one of the game. He probably lost the Philly game, but he probably sitting at 13-3. It ain't going to be many of them this week, all right? It's going to be a lot more losers. We had, 2 losers last week? It's going to be a lot more than 2 losers this week. I guarantee it. And I told you that last week. 3-11 Atlas says, what a game. The rivalry is ugly and real, and I love every second of it, Atlas. I love it. Want more of it, man. Sean McDonough trying to tell me what I like. Don't tell me what I like. God damn it. I love it. I don't like it. I love it. I hope Shazier's all right, though, man. I love that dude. I love the way he plays the game, but that was self-inflicted. That's the part that kills me with that, is he went that same damn hit they showed with him hitting Giovanni Bernard in the playoffs a couple of years back, and that brutal playoff game that was just vicious, flavor-delicious, poetic scripture that we all loved. He did the same thing. He lowered his head, crown of the helmet. They tell you not to do that. How many E60 commercials we got to watch with them talking about face up, see what you hit? And he lowered his head, and it came back to bite him. I just hope he's all right. I pray for him. Ginger Callum says, not even bothered about the result. I'm super worried about Shazier. Not only his career, but his life could forever change. I'm with you. I hope that he's all right. We all praying for him and hoping that it's not something more severe like paralysis. You know what I mean? Just the fact that he was rolling around and he was able to go and touch his back, gives me hope for him being okay. But normally you hear an update. It happened in the first quarter. Normally by the third quarter we hear, oh, Ryan Shazier's got movement in all of his extremities and he's okay. We didn't hear that. And so I'm a little nervous, and I just want to make sure everything's okay with him. That's the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway from this game is the health of Ryan Shazier right now. BE says, when these two teams play, the NFL needs to throw the rule book out the window because these teams play rough. It's always physical when these two teams go at it, and it's football. I don't mean to sound like a savage, but it's football the way football was meant to be played. Not with the vicious hits that take guys out, but they play with a level of physicality in this rivalry here when it's in Cincinnati that you don't see around the rest of the league. It's what we yearn for. It's why we loved Seattle, San Francisco when they were at their peak in the mid 2000s and in the mid 2010s, because it was vicious. It was physical. Every game was a referendum on the NFL rulebook. And how close can we get to going to that line without crossing it? And this is on that same line. I think they actually took a step further, though, taking a step further with just how physical Bengal games are. Dark Steeler 1995 says the refs were awful all effing game. The Martavis Bryant TD that was called back was awful. The Bengals were playing dirty all game. I thought that the Big Ten touchdown on the kickoff return was garbage. But then again, you could argue that the A.J. Green touchdown that was called back due to the holding penalty on Giovanni Bernard was garbage. I mean, I thought that was the football gods evening the score there. Both teams had a touchdown taken off the board with questionable penalties. So I won't sit here and complain about that because both teams had questionable penalties negate touchdowns, big touchdowns at that. So you can't complain about the officiating one way or the other in this game because both teams were impacted. And if you're a Steelers fan, you definitely can't complain about the officiating because it benefited you more so than it did Cincinnati in this game. Xavier Rose says, Steelers GM was never seen on camera saying Shazier has no feeling in his lower body. He said he was seen on camera saying Shazier has no feeling in his lower body. I hope he's not. Let me check my phone. I heard an ESPN update. I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything in terms of an update on Shazier's condition. Okay, I haven't gotten anything, so nothing's been confirmed, so I'm not going to feed into any news at this point. But like I said, prayers, all prayers go out to Ryan Shazier and a full recovery, man. I pray that he is okay. It's not even about football at this point now. AK says, Juju acting like Hines Ward, though, with that block on Vontaze. Vicious. Yeah, he was. I just hated that he stood over him, though. You can't do that. He lucky a fight didn't erupt there. You know, had he did that to, say, Drake Kirkpatrick and Vontaze Burfict came over there, he would have lit him up. He wouldn't have allowed him to get away with that. I was glad his teammate came and got to him before one of the Bengals players did because one of his linemen came and took him and moved him out of the way before one of the Bengals players got over there because had a Bengals player got to him first, he might have caught a forearm shiver to the neck, and I wouldn't have blamed him for it. Like, bruh, you just blindsided my man. He's out on the ground, and you're standing over him. Like, no, you can't do that. And like I said, he's a young boy. He'll learn, but, boy, it could have got ugly, man. Could have gotten ugly. Dark Sealer says, the Shazier injury made me cry. I don't care if I'm a grown man. He might be paralyzed forever. That was awful to watch. Hashtag pray for Shays. Yeah, man. I hope he's all right, man. Like I said, he's one of my favorite football players to watch. I told you, him and Bobby Wagner are the two best inside linebackers to me in the league. And if he goes down to an injury that could be serious and career-threatening, and again, it's not even about football at this point. It's about his well-being and his quality of life at this point. That would definitely it would tarnish this game, and because we haven't seen a serious NFL injury occur on the field in years. I don't think a guy's been paralyzed on the field since the Jets guy, Bird, was paralyzed in like 1990. So we haven't seen paralysis take place on an NFL football field in over 3 decades. 1990, 2000, 2010. So over 2 decades, 2.5. You're talking about 25 years of football with no major, career-ending paralysis type injuries. And I hope we didn't see the first in over 25 years tonight. I don't even want to think about that. Cloud says, Martavis Bryant's touchdown shouldn't have been called back. I mean, like I said, a lot of people would argue the A.J. Green touchdown shouldn't have been called back. So, I mean, it is what it is. Captain Spartan 04 says, that Juju hit was, woo! I know if it happened to my Steelers, I probably would be upset. But then again, our young rookie already in the rivalry moment. Yeah, that was vicious, man. I hate the peel back block rule, but I know why they put it in. And it's a good rule. Because when you don't see it coming, that's the one that gets you hurt. Those are the ones that can really do some serious damage. So that was vicious. Cloud says Juju on the big hit, perfect Juju on the beat hit perfect like dude was talking about his mama. He said B says, when I made my picks, I accidentally put week 16 and didn't notice 2 days. I made a reply saying 13. Did you get that change? I don't know. I don't look at the picks. I just go up there and make sure that I post, this is the cutoff. That's all I do. I don't actually look at it. So Ginger Callan says, what about that Bell TD? What the hell was that, D? I already talked about William Jackson kind of just falling asleep behind the wheel. The Oklahoma rookie, Jordan, I can't think of his last name, but he gave effort. He tried to push him out of bounds. He just didn't get a good enough piece of him. But it was up to William Jackson III. He was supposed to push him out of bounds. He just fell asleep behind the wheel on that one. Cloud says, yeah, Bengals choked. It was 16-0 at one point, or 16-3. No, it was 17-0. They scored a touchdown to A.J. Green right before the half to make it 17-0, and they had them right where they wanted them, and they kicked the football off with like 21 seconds, and the Steelers had 2 chunk plays, a screen to Le'Veon Bell and a pass interference penalty that allowed them to get a field goal right before the half. Are you kidding me? Can't do that. Dark Steeler says, the Bengals had almost 200 yards in penalties, embarrassing, and that hit on Brown to the helmet was brutal, and he targeted Brown. Yeah, it was, but it's part of what happens when the Steelers and the Bengals play. So, again, I know you're a Steelers fan, but that's what happens in this rivalry, and the Steelers do just as much nonsense to the Bengals in this rivalry as the Steelers do. Like, don't act as if the Steelers don't do anything wrong in this rivalry, because they do a lot of nonsense, okay? The Juju Smith-Schuster hit was garbage. It was nonsense. It was malicious. And again, it's part of the game. That hit that George Iloka put on Tones is part of football. It happens. He wasn't targeting him. He's trying to dislodge the football. He got there late, and he was trying to get the football out. Hey, you'll take the penalty if you get the football out and it's not a touchdown, because guess what? Now it's 1st and goal from the 6 or the 5 instead of a touchdown, and you make them earn it. So, like I said, it's not a situation where he was looking to try to. It wasn't to me like what Vontaze Burfict did 2 years ago in the playoffs when he tried to take Antonio Brown out on that hit late in the game. It wasn't like that. That was clearly targeting there. Like, okay, yeah, he's going after him. Black LB says, you spoke the truth about not telling us how to feel about our football. I mean, sometimes, and I get where he's coming from. Like, that you don't like that, but don't tell me how I like my football. These play-by-play guys. I remember Joe Buck getting on his high horse one time when Randy Moss mooned the Green Bay Packers. Oh, that is just sickening. Joe Buck, get off your goddamn high horse. Nobody want to hear that. Captain Spartan 04 says the Steelers have it this year. I feel like they do, but injuries could derail that. But we'll see. Ginger Calvin says, AB didn't play well, and he still put up a hundo. Meanwhile, Julio got 24 yesterday. Hashtag just saying. Don't do that, because when your boy, AB, played against Xavier Rhodes, how many yards he had? Okay, I rest my case. Don't do that, because Xavier Rhodes is putting boys to sleep. You know it. Don't act like he didn't put AB to sleep in week 2. So don't do that. Don't do that, okay? And yes, AB was playing on a nasty big toe. He was not playing up against one of the league's best corners, okay? Don't do that, Ginger Callum. Got to call you on your nonsense right there. Captain Spartan 04 says, really, even though we still won, I just can't stop worrying about Ryan Shazier. Everybody's thinking about it. He's in everybody's thoughts and prayers right now. Andrew Kim says, even though William Jackson made that mistake, letting Bell score, I love his game. Physical corner with speed and good tackler. Easily Bengals' best corner, essentially a rookie. I feel the same way, except I didn't think he was a great tackler coming out of Houston. I think he was a willing tackler, but I saw enough plays of him ducking his head and just diving at guys and not seeing what he hit, and guys were just jumping over him. I saw a lot of, hey, man, I'm going to just throw my body around, don't necessarily know if I'm going to make a tackle or not. So I don't consider him a great tackler, but he's willing to do what he needs to do to help his team. I saw him wrap up Juju Smith-Schuster. Nope, that was 26. That was the cornerback from USC that did that. So, yeah, I'm not sure he's a great tackler. I don't think he is, but in any event, I agree with you. I think he's their best corner. And, yes, he's essentially a rookie because he missed all of last year. So I agree with you on that, AK, for sure. Ginger Calvin says, pretty sure 34 is Cameron Sutton, our third-round pick. Okay, I didn't know who he was. You're probably right. That's the rookie out of Tennessee, the cornerback. And I didn't know who he was. I hadn't seen him all year. I didn't know what he looked. I didn't know his number. I hadn't seen him on the field. So I had no clue what Cameron Sutton's number was. I know now, and I appreciate you for telling me, because now that you've told me and informed me, now when I see 34, I'll know, okay, that's Cameron Sutton. So I'm just seeing guys that I've never seen before. Petty Boy says, Ryan Shazier, better than what it could have been, per team source. Looking better. This is from 12:12 a.m. So sounds like he's doing a little bit better. But I just hope he's all right, man. That's all we can hope for. Thanks for that update, Petty Boy. Good looking out. John Perez says, these teams obviously hate each other, which is why it was so physical. I'm surprised nobody from either team tried to go into their opponent's respective locker rooms. They never, it's always about the game. Like, after the game's over, you'll see members of each team in the middle of the field praying together. Like, yeah, there's still a mutual respect, but there is a disdain. And I think some of those players don't actually like each other, which is rare in today's NFL. Like, back in the days, players actually didn't like players from other teams. There wasn't, hey, man, much respect to you, man. Hope you have a great season, man. Y'all do y'all thing, man. Keep doing your thing this year, man. You too, man. Or guys switching jerseys. And even if you went to the same school, you know, there may have been a mutual respect between guys that went to school, and maybe even a friendship off the field, but you never saw it expressed directly after the game, you know, which is what you see now every game. You know, guys switching uniforms with each other, exchanging uniforms, and guys dapping each other up, talking for 10, 15 minutes after the game, walking back to the tunnel with each other. That would have never happened 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. But it's a different league now, so some of these players may have a little disdain for each other, but for the most part, I don't think they actually hate each other. It's physical between these two teams. It just is. It just is what it is. Like Ben Roethlisberger said, it's AFC North football. All right. John Perez says, 2 questions. Should the refs have had control of this game when it started getting out of hand? And do you think some teams need to bring back the 85 Bears type football? To your first question, I never thought this game got out of hand. Never thought this didn't look like the playoff game 2 years ago, which got out of hand. This game never got out of hand to me. So I didn't think it needed to be, controlled, or they didn't need to crack down. They didn't need to send a message with an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. They didn't need to go warn the coaches or, anything of that nature. It never got out of hand. I didn't feel that. It just was a physical football game. To your second question, no, you don't need to bring back the 85 Bears type of football. That was physical football, guys getting hurt, concussions, and Dave Duerson, a member of that 85 Bears team, committed suicide because of the CTE that he had. And a number of guys from that generation have CTE and they can't remember things. And that's a lot of those players were a part of that concussion lawsuit. And you don't want to see that. That's why the game is making the changes that it is, because you don't want to see that kind of football being brought back. Now, being said, this was a cleaner version of what they did back in the day, and that's what we're promoting. That's what I want to see. A cleaner version of physical football, which is what you get with the Steelers in Cincinnati. It's still on the borderline of nasty, dirty physical football, but it's nothing compared to what they used to do back in the 70s and 80s. That wasn't on the line. That was just out and outright vicious and dangerous football. Those dudes were head hunting. Those dudes were going helmet to helmet. Those dudes were clotheslining people. They were choke slamming guys. Quarterbacks weren't protected. I mean, it was a different game. How many quarterbacks in those days played until they were 40-something? Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, all these dudes are going to play well into their 40s. You know why? Because it's a different game. Troy Aikman had to retire early because of concussions. Steve Young had to retire early because of concussions. Okay? It was a different game. Jim McMahon has the worst CTE of any quarterback, maybe in NFL history. Okay, that's saying too much. Of any quarterback in the last 30 years. Jim McMahon probably does. It was because it was a different game. It was way more physical. If you want to go see a hit, turn on, just YouTube this. It's probably a 10-second clip. For those of you who aren't football historians, who have never seen the hit, type in Leonard Marshall hit on Joe Montana. Go look at that hit. That's 80s football personified. You can never hit a quarterback like that today. Lit him up from behind. Joe Montana never saw him coming. Lit him up from behind. Football goes flying in the air. That's good football, but you can never do that today. And that's what you see in this rivalry here. So no, I don't want to see 85 Bears type of football because they used to cross the line, but I want to see physical football going up to that line. Don't cross it. Back in the days, they crossed the line. They were habitual line steppers. I don't want to see you cross the line, but I want to see you go up as close to that line as you can. That's the kind of football I want to see. That's what we see in this rivalry here. See if I can pick up where I left off. Here we go. Black Al B says, whatever photos Lewis got of the owner, he needs to give them up so the new coach can keep his job for the next 15 years. I mean, that's just how they operate business. Mike Brown has never been one to fire. He's extremely cheap. He doesn't like firing coaches. He's not going to waste money. He's not going to fire a coach if he's got 3 years left on his deal because he's not paying two coaches at the same time. He believes in the value of a nickel, okay? He's not giving up free money. So, and he doesn't like a lot of change. He's not a big guy on change. So he's more of a stickler for continuity. So it's just the way they run their business. John Perez says, Lewis probably still has his job because the owner, he don't got no sex tape, man. Y'all chill. Fire Breather 719 says, they're the Cincinnati Botchels for a reason. Excuse me. They've been a good franchise for a while now, and they've fallen on hard times of late the last 2 years, missing the postseason, but they've been good, man. Marvin Lewis had a good run there when they were in the playoffs every single year, but as his coordinators started to be depleted and teams started picking off his really good coordinators one by one. First Jay Gruden, then Mike Zimmer, then Hugh Jackson. As they started to go one by one, you've seen that Cincinnati Bengals team fall off because of the lack of coaching. Jesse Amato says, my Steelers always play crappy to start road games. I don't get it. There may be a little merit to that. I'm trying to think, have they played well to start a road game this season? One that I can think of. I don't really recall. I mean, even the first game of the season against Cleveland, they literally eked that one out at the very end. So there may be a little bit of credence to that. John Perez says, should the Bengals GM be the Bengals don't have a GM. Their owner is their GM. So for what it's worth. Jesse Amato says Marvin Lewis needs to be fired, and he's done after this. He won't be fired. He just won't be re-signed after the season. John Niner says, man, Louie, you left us Niner fans hanging. We were waiting for the 49ers verse. It's coming after this video is done, and let's see how long we've already went. I'll probably give y'all another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to get to those videos, man. I got you. I ain't forget about you, and because I got a lot to say about that game and Jimmy G and his performance, and so I ain't forget about you, John Niner, man. Andrew Kim says, was easy for me once 13-3 finally got a break separated from the pack. That's going to give you a chance to gain a little ground on BE, man. So maybe that race will tighten up. John Perez says, Marvin Lewis, the no-name Bengals GM and the entire coaching staff to the pit of misery. Dilly. Bengals GM, like I said, is their owner, essentially. It's been him and Marvin Lewis, basically. And then there's some other guys that have some decision-making input. But for the most part, it's the owner and the head coach kind of going in there and along with the scouts and making those decisions. Black Al B says, the narrative about my Vikes now is that they have a great defense, but they get no turnovers. Next week, Zim will have them ready to pick off Cam at least 3 times. It could happen. With that, those bum receivers, I cringed thinking, first of all, who does X-Man take? Obviously, he's going to take away Funches. Never mind. I got to see where he goes with the football after you take away Funches. That's going to be interesting to see. Jesse Amato says, Bryant looks more involved. He's the X factor against the Patriots. I love the fact that they put him on kickoffs. He just, like you said, he's more focused now that Tomlin got in his ass, chewed him out, told him, look, man, you either going to fall in line or you can get the hell out of here. And I love that they put him on kickoffs. He seems more engaged. I agree. Real Boxing Network says, did you see Marvin Lewis's face when he shook Mike Tomlin's hand? He looked like he saw a ghost. He couldn't believe they lost, LOL. Since he finally firing him for show. Yeah. Because this one, I didn't think they were going to lose this one, to be honest with you. I never thought until Cincinnati went 3-and-out at 20-13. I still didn't think they were going to win the game until they went 3-and-out. I said, if the Steelers get down there, they're going to score a touchdown and tie this game up. And it wasn't until it got to 2020, I said, okay, Steelers going to win this game now. Steelers going to win this game. Jazzy E says, they were putting each other on stretchers. Literally, football, one hell of a sport. It is, man. It's crazy. Dark Sealer says, Juju hit Burfict because he stole his bike. Fire Breather 719 says, Randy Moss mooning the Green Bay crowd was funny. That's a disgusting act by Randy Moss. Joe Buck is a joke. I hated that. You know what I mean? Like, Joe Buck was so over the top right there. Like, get out of here, Joe Buck, man. Andrew Kim says, apparently it's a spinal cord concussion. I knew it was spinal cord related, obviously, because, you know, if you're going to be paralyzed, it's got something to do with your spinal cord. But the other reason I knew it was his spinal cord is because when he hit him, he immediately reached for his back, where his spinal cord is. So that told me right away it's a spinal cord injury. And those are very dangerous because if this results in something along the lines of like a spinal stenosis, his career could be over. I remember Chris Samuels had like a spinal cord stenosis. That's the narrowing of your spinal cord, and like one wrong hit and you could be paralyzed. So, you know, he may get away this time, but depending on the severity of the injury, they might advise him, hey, bro, you might have to hang it up. So, we'll see. Dark Sealer says, Joe Buck couldn't carry Randy Moss's jock strap. He's horrible, and the kids in school play flag football instead of tackle. I mean, look, Joe's just doing his job. I'm not going to kill him, but I just hate when guys go over the top. And I felt Joe Buck was over the top with that. John Niner says Tom Brady wouldn't last in the 80s and 90s. A lot of these quarterbacks wouldn't. A lot of quarterbacks wouldn't last in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, dudes aren't playing. Tom Brady isn't playing until he's 45, which he very well could with the way the rules are set up. It's not happening in the 80s and 90s, man. You'd be fortunate to make it to 36, 37 as a quarterback. It just was tougher, man. Dudes took shots. I mean, quarterbacks that fall down, and Brady and Eli Manning, they're the best at falling down so they don't take hits. Dudes in the 80s and 90s won't even letting you fall down and take hits. You would have fell down and they would have kneed you in your back. You'd have messed around and caught a knee to your back and had to leave the game limping because your back is all out of whack. I mean, you won't getting away with nothing back in them days. Dudes were so brutal and vicious. You fall down for a sack, you might get a helmet to your back. John Niner says Michael Irvin's career ended because the Eagles and their fans ended against the Eagles and their fans cheered. Well, they didn't know that his career was going to end, but it was he left on a stretcher. I'm like, come on, that's why people don't love Eagles fans, right there. And I hate to categorize them all and put them in all in one box, but the Philly fans are the most gruesome and rabid fan base there is. They don't give a damn. I mean, they're brutal. And they know in the vet back in those days in the vet, that was concrete those boys were playing on. When Mike dropped his head and jammed his neck into that turf, that was cement. It was turf on top of cement. Ask anybody that played in the vet. It was cement. Anybody that played in Three River Stadium, it was cement. So to cheer when a guy goes down on that turf, come on, man. Dudes used to be playing, AstroTurf was like playing on cement back in the day. Football's come so far. John Perez says, I do want to say that before the Bengals hired Marvin Lewis, they were a god-awful franchise for years, mostly because they had no money, no free agents, and no one wanted to go play there. Look, a lot of people kill Marvin Lewis because of his inability to win in the postseason. But the point you just made is the point I've been making for years. What were the Cincinnati Bengals before Marvin Lewis got there? And I always leave it at that. I just walk away, drop the mic, and leave it at that. No, he hasn't won a playoff game. But would you rather be a team that goes to the playoffs every year and doesn't win, or a team that doesn't even make it to the playoffs, like the Buffalo Bills? You tell me, which one's worse? So, anyway. Cloud says, I agree, but I would say that up north fans in general, people be cold, passionate, and mad all at the same time. You're right. I think you're right. There's a different tenor to people that are from up north. New York, Philadelphia, those guys, they're definitely a different breed. I'd agree with you on that. People up north, a lot colder. I remember when I went to visit one time, and I'm from the South, so everybody's pretty courteous. They're nice. They're respectful. They hold doors. How are you doing? They greet people different time of the day. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, good evening, that type of thing. You go up north, man, people don't give a shit about you, your day, your feelings, how you doing. They're not holding no doors for you. Look, I got shit to do. So I'm not holding the door for you. I don't give a damn about your morning. So, and it ain't no, hey, how are you? I don't care how you doing. I care about me. I don't care about catching this train and getting off at my stop. And then catching a bus and getting to my job. I don't give a damn about you. Or your feelings or your day or your cup of coffee. None of that. That's people up north. So you're right. But with that being said, Steelers get the win 23-20 over the Cincinnati Bengals, improved to 10-2 in what was a phenomenal football game, physical in all of its splendor. Steelers come away with the 23-20 victory. Our prayers go out to Ryan Shazier. We hope that he is okay. It's not even about football at this point. It's about his well-being and his ability to walk in quality of life at this point. And whether he plays another snap in the National Football League or not is irrelevant at this point. We just care about the man's safety and that he is okay and can walk. And so we're all praying for a speedy recovery for him. Vontaze Burfict apparently got off the stretcher, so he's fine. But it was a physical game. It's what we love to see. It's why we love Steelers and Cincinnati, specifically in the jungle in Cincinnati. It's why we love football in general. Steelers get the win. They're 10-2. Bengals, for all intents and purposes, eliminated from playoff contention in the AFC as they drop to 5-7 on the season. That's going to do it for your man Louie T. I thank each and every single one of you for joining me here on Monday Night Football Overtime. I've got much more for you guys as I've been slacking today, had a lot going on in my world, so didn't finish lockdown coverage. So I got about 5 games to break down, and I'm going to do them in rapid fire fashion coming at you next. So much like last night, more Louie, late night Louie for you guys. I'll see you in a second. Have a good one, and thanks again for joining me on Monday Night Football Overtime.